Hi there, everyone. Art Burns here. Hope you're all having a great day today. I hope the day is bringing you joy and satisfaction and love and compassion and just a wonder of curiosity. And if it's not, if you're not having that kind of day, I want you to remember impermanence. Okay, I want you to remember the fact that nothing lasts forever, whether it's the good things in our lives or the bad things in our lives as we're judging them to be. Nothing lasts forever. Okay, pain doesn't last forever, nor does pleasure. And so understand that if you're in a difficult time right now, understand that it is just right now, and that at some point it will be something else. You will be in a different situation. Okay, so and just understand that you have the power to reach inside yourself and center yourself and ground yourself in this present moment, not thinking about outcomes, not thinking about how we got here and mistakes we made and actions we took to get us to this place. But no, you are really right here right now, and that's the only thing you need to worry about. Okay, seriously, like that's it. Just worry about now, and the future and the past will tend to take care of themselves on one level or another. And that's one of the things that I want to talk about today, right? I talk a lot here about the benefits of the practice of being in the now, right? Of just paying attention to what is happening as it's happening, because this is where we can remember impermanence. This is where we can gain some satisfaction even in the difficult times, right? We can honor the difficult times that we go through as learning experiences, as means to our happiness, right? Even the difficulty, right? And of course, we can talk more about this in detail. If you have a specific thing that you're going through right now and you'd like to talk about that, I'm here for you if you want to talk, okay? But today I want to talk about one of the other benefits that we talk about that we can derive from these practices, right? But before I tell you the benefit that I want to talk about, and before we get into that, let's talk about something that, sort of what is the opposite of living in this moment, right? Of really being present in this moment. And it's something that is actually, the reason why we have these practices, right, to get us to be present in the present moment and non-judging of our experiences and to truly live in this moment, the reason why we need to train that for ourselves is that it doesn't come automatically in our society, right? It does come automatically to us, right? It is what we're naturally predisposed to doing. And you can see that from walking through the neighborhood with any 2-year-old kid, right? I mean, a 2-year-old kid, if they have enough to eat and they're not, they're not walking around with like a soiled diaper or something, then the 2-year-old child will be as so present that he or she could sit with a beetle that they find on the sidewalk for hours if you allow it, right? Like literally, they are that present. And so it is within our instinct and our natural state to be present, right? But society and the world in which we grow up, now of course, your conditioning is your conditioning. My conditioning is my conditioning, right? And even within our families, right? Like even my sisters, my 2 sisters, they are going to have different programming than I have, and they're going to have different programming even from each other, right? Because the programming, this programming that I kind of mention here, right, is between the age of birth and around 7 or 8 years old, right, you are just a sponge, right? Every single one of us, all we're doing is we're soaking up the experiences of our lives, right? We're soaking up how we see people interacting with us, right? When we do something, we take a chance and do something that's like naughty or something, we find out like, okay, that was no good. This big person is kind of scolding me for that, so now I need to not do that anymore. We're also looking at how people interact with each other, right? Like, okay, this person who tells me everything I'm supposed to do, well, she has this tendency to yell at people, so I guess yelling at people is something that I'm supposed to do, right? So that's how we develop this programming, right? And part of this programming, and it's not, it doesn't necessarily start with just your first 7 years of life. It's also your parents' first 7 years of their lives separately, right? Because they didn't know each other when they were, so even that, right? That you have two dynamics, two programmings coming together and then creating your programming. So it gets very, very sort of unconscious as we go on, right? And of course, it goes back further than just the one generation too, right? It goes back, some people will tell you 7 generations is very much impacting the way that you have been programmed to kind of see the world, right? And that's a lot of what we're doing with these practices, is kind of addressing that programming. Now, not all of it is going to be bad, right? Not all of it is horrible. Not all of it is something that you need to shed or reconfigure or whatever. But some of it, the stuff that is done unconsciously, right? And stuff just because that's the way it is, right? Anytime you kind of, when you ask yourself, like, why did I do this? If your answer is anywhere along the lines of, because that's just the way it is, right? Then that is a clear sign that you are acting unconsciously, right? And so to bring consciousness and intention and presence to that thing, right, allows you to examine and allows you to unpack and kind of, when I say unpack, like you're unpacking like a box of your unconscious, programming, and you can say, okay, this piece of me is something that I like and this benefits me. This is in line with what I really feel. But this thing over here, not so much. I'm going to put that for a yard sale. I'm going to go donate that to somebody else because I don't need it, right? And that's part of what this process is, right? And so one of the, when I say this process, I mean the process of working on ourselves to become present and to become non-judging and to become, intentional and conscious about what we're doing, right? And one of the greatest issues, I think the most common issues that we have in terms of our programming, there's really not just something that is, because you have to also remember, right, that there's a couple of different influences that are happening, right, when we talk about this programming, right? This implicit, unconscious programming that happens, right? Like some of it is coming from your parents, right? But the reason why my sisters and I all have different programming is because it's not all just from your parents. I mean, if you grew up in a family farm, a very remote, where you didn't have a lot of interaction with other people, then yes, then your parents are going to be, nearly 100% of your programming. But if you grew up in a big urban setting, right, like I did in New York City, well, then my programming is coming from my parents, but it's also coming from everything I'm seeing in a very busy place like New York City. The way I see people, kind of interacting on the bus or walking down the street, or if I see violence, or if I see people helping each other, if I see like a store owner who is willing to allow somebody to to extend credit to them, then this is all part of my programming as well, right? And another really big source of the programming that we have in our lives is school, right? Like when we're growing up in school, right? We're not only are we getting the programming of seeing how the teachers treat us, how the teachers treat other children, how the teachers interact with themselves, how our parents interact with our teachers, how our parents, kind of whether they further the disciplinary actions of our teachers or they balance it out with some compassion. All of this, right, is going to play into it. But one of the big things with the school system is that it builds into our psyche the idea of striving, right? The idea, the very basic premise of school, right? Like, you start with first period in the school, you end with 8th period in the school, you start in 1st grade, you end at 12th grade. It's all this very progression-based kind of thing, right? And we're led early on, right? And this is something that even week by week, right? Like Monday morning, we're taught as very, very young children to not like Monday morning, right? But to really like Friday, and to see this progression in between the two, right? And so this progression that we have, right, really gets baked in. And again, this is not the fault of your parents. And this is not the fault, it's not even the fault of your teachers. It's not technically even the fault of the school itself. It's such an ingrained kind of, product of our society, that you can't even say like, okay, that's the person who did this, who's creating this problem, let's go talk to that person and see if we can fix it. It's not like that, right? It's just this sort of thing of our sort of the way that we grow up, right, in society, right? And so what this is inspiring and motivating us towards, right, is this idea that there's happiness out there. There's happiness around the next corner, over the next hill, right, after next summer. And what this does is, again, even if you look at it from a hour to hour period, right? Like, okay, you start school at 8:30 in the morning, you get done at 3:30 in the afternoon. So therefore, your entire time from 8:30 to 3:30 is just looking forward to getting to that 3:30 so that I can go out and play with my friends, right? Because that's really what I want to do, is I just want to be present and play with my friends. Again, that's my natural, normal and sort of instinctive state, right? So we're doing that on a daily level. Then we're doing it on a weekly level, right? That Monday morning is terrible, right? Because we had this great weekend. We went, apple picking with our parents and our cousins, or we took a road trip and visited somebody. We went to the beach, whatever it was, right? And now, boom, here we are on Monday morning, and we have to go back to school, and it stinks, right? And now all I can do is wait now until Friday when I get to go apple picking again, or get to go back to the beach, or get to go and see my grandmother again, right? And so we have this, and then of course it happens year by year, right? That in the first grade, right? You're in first grade now. You're no longer a kindergartner. Isn't this exciting? Well, guess what? Next year you're going to be in second grade. And then soon after you'll be in third grade, and then fourth grade, and then fifth grade. And by then, you're almost a teenager. You're almost in middle school, and then you'll be in high school. You'll learn to drive. You'll have responsibilities. You can earn your own money. All of this great stuff is going to happen out there. So just keep working hard and keep getting through, and you're going to get to that place, right? And unfortunately, as I said in the video the other day, right, when I talk about training and sort of exercising these concepts of mindfulness, right, what we're talking about is an intentional way of training. But the thing is that we are unintentionally and unconsciously training ourselves over all of these years, right? Unwittingly and unconsciously, we're creating this kind of, we talk about neuroscience here a lot. I talked about Richard Davidson the other day, and this is something he said in the talk that I posted in the comments, that unwittingly we're practicing one way or the other, right? And through that practice, we're creating neural circuitry and neural pathways that make this the way that we act, the way that we do things in our lives, right? So the trouble with that is that when we're very, very young, we're kind of training ourselves unwittingly. Like, nobody's telling you that, okay, we're going to train you now to just look forward to, other parts of your life so you can just live this life of just getting through. Just get through the day, get through the week, get through the year, and train yourself to think that somewhere out there, there's going to be happiness, right? And fulfillment, right? Instead of fulfillment being right here, right now, in that pencil that you're chewing, right? Or the way that you've taken apart that pen and spilled ink all over the paper and made this amazing design, right? Like, that's not happiness. Happiness is next year, next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, what have you, right? And so what happens is, and this is very true to my own story, right? Like, when I talk about how, I used to live, again, for the people on the podcast, there's some air quotes around how I used to live, right? It was very much a sense of just getting through the day, right? It wasn't about enjoying each moment of each day. It was about getting through it, right? It was about reaching the evening so that I could go home and sit on the couch and order a pizza and watch a TV show. It was getting through the quarter or getting through the month or what have you in terms of like sales figures and stuff like that. It was just getting through these years so that I could one day buy a house. It was getting through getting to the point where I would meet a woman who I could marry. It was all about just getting through what the current present moment, just getting through it so that I could reach that thing. The problem is that that thing becomes like a carrot that's affixed to our own, our back, right? And it's hanging out in front of us and we can never reach it. We're always just going after it and striving. We can never reach it. And the problem with that, of course, is that then we feel like we'll never be happy. We always feel like we're postponing our joy and in the interest of some bigger joy. But, unfortunately, when this is done in such an unconscious way, you wind up like I was when I was in my 40s, already had 2 children, already made some really bad decisions and created some really, uncomfortable and unsafe health situations in my life. I was deeply entrenched in the whole, money thing, like how much money I felt I needed and how much like I had a house, I had a car, I had all this stuff that Tyler Durkin, the guy from, I think that's how his name is, in Fight Club, right? He says that what you own winds up owning you. And it's only when you have nothing that you're free, right? And that's very much how I felt. Now, that's not true for everyone, right? A lot of people are very happy in their houses, and I applaud you for that, if that's the case for you, right? But some of us wind up, as I said, in their 40s looking around and saying, this isn't it. They all told me that by the time I was 40, things are gonna be good. I was gonna be happy. And I did everything everybody was, told me I was supposed to do. I worked hard, I made the money, I did all the things that I was supposed to do, but yet here I am and I'm miserable, right? Because all I did was I just got through it. I just, it's almost like, like when, we have this sense like we just have to get through as fast as we can so that we get to that thing, that happiness someday in our lives, right? But the problem is that we're running so fast, but sometimes we're running in the wrong direction, right? And that leads me to one of the benefit that I want to talk about today of mindfulness. One of the greatest benefits that came to me through these practices, and the greatest benefit that I hear a lot of my clients talking about, right, is a sense of patience, right? This sense of, getting back to our natural, that 2-year-old who could sit with a beetle on the sidewalk for literally like an hour, right? The beetle's not talking, the beetle's not doing tricks, the beetle's not, doing anything, but the child can sit there and just be with that beetle for literally an hour, right? And so that's patience, right? It's the patience to allow life to come to you, allow life to unfold, right? And if we can train ourselves in this patience, especially if we can train our children in this patience. Now again, we can't control what happens at school, right? We can't abolish this system that's been in place for hundreds of years, right? But what we can do is we can counteract it or counterbalance it when they come home, right? And we can teach our children that it's not about just getting through each day until you finally get to Friday. It's not about getting through first grade as fast as you can so you can someday be in second grade. It's not about that ceremony at the end of the year, the moving up ceremony where we all, gather together and we cheer you and you sing songs and it's really fun. Like that can happen every single day, right? Like that's how we can help our children with that. But in order to help our children with it, we have to become this first, right? We have to live it first. And that's the hard part, right? Because most of us have been trained and conditioned and we've developed these neural pathways to be in a striving state, to be in a state of hurry, 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 right? Get through Monday because Tuesday's one day closer to Friday, right? Get through it as fast as possible. You know, there's a TV show on at 9 o'clock tonight. I remember back in the day, I remember literally on the train on the way into work, right? Talking to my wife about like, hey, there's a new episode of, 24 on tonight. I can't wait. What are we gonna, you want to order pizza? Like, like we're already like there's no day, it's like literally, I mean, and there's also been times where I felt like, like waking up before I even have a cup of tea in the morning, I'm already thinking about going to bed that night because I'm so tired, right? And it's just so stressful. I mean, these are the thoughts that I used to have, right? And what you're doing is you're just, just kind of getting rid of all of these moments that exist during the day. And this is where life happens. Right? Life doesn't happen when you're sitting on your couch watching Kiefer Sutherland at 9 o'clock on Monday, right? Life doesn't happen in the striving towards getting the big car or the big house or what have you, right? Life is happening right now. And when we train ourselves to be present in the right now, okay, it's not about time at that point. It's about just this eternal present moment. And when we train ourselves in that, well, then it's just natural to become more patient. Again, just like when we were 2 years old and we were happy to just, play with a leaf and a beetle for an hour, right? Or a blade of grass and a little bug, right? Like we were willing to do that for as long as we were allowed to do it because that's life happening as it's happening. Right? And so as you do these practices, this is one of the most important or most powerful benefits. I don't know if it's important, that's not mine to say, but it's one of the most powerful benefits that I ever received was this ability to be patient, to not be thinking about gotta go, gotta get to that thing, gotta get to the end of the day, gotta get to the end of the week, gotta get to that, that house or that car or what have you. But be patient and allow life to come to you. And as we do this, okay, not only are we reducing our stress, right? Because the stress is in that striving. The stress is the feeling of, okay, I'm not meeting my goals. I'm not on pace with my goals. I'm making mistakes. I'm not good enough. I'm gonna fail, right? That's where stress comes from. And that's because of the striving or the looking back and saying, oh my gosh, how did I do this? How did I screw up so badly to get to this point, right? And that's the thing, right? Then you only have that back look when you're not paying attention to what's happening and you wind up in the future where you're no longer, that's not where you want to be, right? And so the stress goes away, right? Literally goes away. The happiness, right? The happiness that we can feel in each present moment. The happiness we can feel in the smile of our child. The happiness we can, and the thing is like we miss it, right? We miss the smile of our child because we're running off and we have to go and do this food shopping because dinner has to happen at 6:30 or else I'm a failure as a parent, right? But stopping for a moment and really connecting to our child, that's where life is happening, right? And so what I leave you with here today is just, I hope that this inspires you because, and I hope that maybe some of what I've said here resonates with you because it is such a pervasive, aspect of the way that we live as a society, is this striving, this, the happiness is out there. But no, the happiness, because even out there, right, that thing that is out there, it's going to be a present moment when it happens, right? So if we take care of this present moment and the next one and the next one and the next one, but keep ourselves in the present moment, or let me rephrase that, instead of thinking about the next moment, if we're always just in this moment, then whatever happens later, we are going to be attending the way that we need to create the happiness, to create the excitement, to create the fulfillment that we seek out there, right? And again, the idea is that it's in here, it's with us all the time. So I hope that that's enough inspiration for you to want to try to do some of these practices. Okay, the practices are so simple, folks. They really are, and it's almost it's like impossible to believe how effective they can be because they are so simple. But it's really just a matter of training your mind and structuring your brain, and it happens, in like 8 weeks, 12 weeks. It's not years and years and years that this stuff takes to start taking root. And so I encourage you and I invite you to take a first step and see how it feels, right? Just take that first step and spend 2 minutes tomorrow morning just focusing on being where you are, right? So maybe it's with your cup of coffee in the morning or your cup of tea, right? Just be present with that cup of tea. Feel the warmth of the cup. Notice the steam coming off of the surface of the tea or coffee. Smell it, taste it, right? Just listen to it. Listen to the bubbling of the water or the percolating of the coffee machine, right? Like, be present with these things. And when you find yourself thinking about, oh gosh, I gotta get through, I gotta get to that meeting at 4 o'clock today, it's only 7 o'clock in the morning, right? Don't think about 4 o'clock today. Let that go. Just let it go. And just be with your coffee for 2 minutes. That's all I'm suggesting is 2 minutes. And then once the coffee's done, now you can, or once those 2 minutes are done, now you get up and you prepare for your 4 o'clock meeting if you need to do some work to prepare for it. But do that preparation now. Don't do it thinking about 4 o'clock. Do it thinking about now. So that's really all you need to get started. It really is that simple. And I'm more than happy to give that to you. Like, that's free. You got it. And that's all you need to do to get started. But if you want to understand it on a little deeper level, or you want to have a little help and support on doing this, that's when we should talk. Okay? And I can certainly help you with that. Okay? And I would be more than happy to help you with that. So if that's something that you're interested in, you know what to do. Okay, after you've done the YouTube stuff of like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it, make a comment, all that kind of stuff, then get in touch with me. Okay, you can leave a comment down there for me. I can get in touch with you. You can go over to my website, artburnscoaching.com. There's ways to book calls with me, to email me, to, whatever. You go on my Facebook. You can find everything, okay? And you can get a hold of me. And I'd be more than happy to talk with you about how simple these practices are to do, how quickly you can get started, and how much it's going to help you, okay? And I'd be more than happy to do that with you. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for listening. Wish all of you well, and I will be back again tomorrow with some more thoughts and some more illustrations of the benefits of these practices. Thanks again, folks. Have a great day. Wish you well.